Hey everyone, welcome back to another season of the Easy Conversations podcast, a podcast about having easy conversations. I'm your host, Furkan Dandia. In this first episode of season 3, I welcome Naeem Adam. Naeem and I went to high school together back in the day, but today Naeem is an entrepreneur. He's co-founded Canada's largest restaurant festivals, Le Burger Week, Le Poutine Week, and Le Pizza Week. Naeem also shares an exciting project that he's currently working on. It's called dineTab. dineTab is an NFT loyalty platform for restaurants, events, and festivals. In this episode, Naeem and I talk about our experiences with being bullied in high school and how that forced us to become resilient and find light. However, we also share how that bullying caused us to repress parts of ourselves and hide in the dark. Towards the end of the episode, Naeem shares exciting news about this non-for-profit music and wellness festival that he's co-founded called Anatha Fest. It's based in Quebec. It's an annual festival. I will also be giving a self-love workshop at this festival, so please check out anathafest.com. If you want to find Naeem, he's available on Instagram at naeem.adam or his website, naeemadam.com. And I really hope you enjoy this episode. And if at the end, if you could leave a 5-star review, I would truly appreciate it. All right, Naeem, welcome to the Easy Conversations podcast. Super grateful for you to come on here and have this conversation with me today. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about. But yeah, before we get started, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell the listeners what it is that you do. And some of the stuff you're doing is really exciting, and the space you're working in is very unique. So I want to give listeners an opportunity to hear about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here. It sounds like we have it's like a little high school reunion.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know if we got a chance to mention, but we went to high school together.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Which is like what, 20, we graduated like 22 years ago.
Yeah. So
that's a long time ago.
Yeah. High school, I was 12, so close to like 27 years ago, we started high school. Yeah. Wow.
Wow, that is crazy to be like reconnected with somebody from like a different past. Like, it's just, it kind of, we met like a couple of days ago and we had some coffee in Montreal, and like, when you sit in front of somebody that reminds you of that phase, you kind of go through things, which is really interesting. It's kind of, a lot of things are brought up, and you kind of like remember and go through these moments. But before we get into that, I'll give you a quick explanation of what's up on my side. So
Sure.
I've been really passionate about the restaurant industry for, I would say like since college. It just really got stuck on me, and like I grew a huge passion for it, mainly because I was so close to my mother, who always kind of kept me in the kitchen, and I grew such a great respect for food that way. And I kind of like saw how happy people are around food, and how happy people are when they come kind of gather around each other. And that's something I really wanted to kind of develop and work on. And like, my favorite thing in the world is going to a restaurant that's busy, that's happy.
Yeah.
And if I can help them get to that place, like, I feel so good. And so like, that's like that, that happiness factor that I'm always trying to achieve. So I created these festivals, the restaurant festivals that go across Canada. One's around one's around burgers, another one's around Poutine, Quebec delicacy,
Yeah.
and third one is around pizza. And they've been going on for 10 years. Quite a, it was started off as like a really fun hobby, and it grew into a real business. And I think our passion was there. And if you kind of move consistently, sorry, and great things happen, especially if it's authentic. And
Yeah.
so we developed those festivals, and Now I am also working in the Web3 space where we're trying to help restaurants leverage the Web3 space with NFTs. And I really see like a bright future for restaurants and NFTs. You can look at it as like restaurants selling digital merch
Yeah.
and, you know, giving them an extra revenue flow to kind of sustain a very you know, difficult business,
Yeah.
and giving them that opportunity to kind of like strive a little bit more and try to reach more and focus on what they love a little bit more. So it's really been like technology, bringing people together, community, and restaurants for I would say the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. And I guess I didn't really fully appreciate how, it does bring happiness when you're out with your friends or family, grabbing a nice meal at a restaurant. It is a good feeling. So, it's important that you stress that as well. And I guess on the NFT side, like how do you feel like there's a certain level of loyalty from customers that would bring them towards that space where they would want to acquire an NFT from their favorite restaurant? Like, how do you see that model working?
Yeah, it's I mean, you know, we're so early in the phase, and one of the sayings in the industry, and other small businesses and all kinds of businesses are soon going to have no choice to like adapt the NFT and Web3 kind of models for their businesses. It's very similar to how, you know, these businesses had no choice to jump on social media, even though there was a reluctance to kind of do so when they first emerged like 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And so I think that it's going to be important for them to adapt it. We're definitely very early in the space, so it's hard to tell exactly how it's going to shape out. But it's like I think that restaurants are going to have an opportunity to kind of attract new customers
Yeah.
with something fun like NFTs. I think restaurants will have a chance to kind of reward their current customers with NFTs as well. And then
Hmm.
they'll be in communication with them. It's like you also get a chance to identify your customers. So if you know, you have like a high roller coming into your restaurant every week and spending so much money, but you just don't know who they are, you
Yeah.
have no way of contacting them, you just kind of show up and you're like, yeah, they're here. You
Yeah.
know, this way it's like, hey, here's a special NFT for you, it's only for those who spend like X amount of money. Now I can communicate with that person, and if you have special events you can reach out to them and stuff like that. And then there's the opportunity, I got to share you a story. Like there's this coffee shop that had a water pipe issue, and you know, they had to close down, and in order to kind of sustain their business they just kept all their regular payments as if they were open. So paying their employees rent,
Yeah.
utilities, everything, and on top of it they had the expenses of fixing this issue to do as well. But and they were closed for a month. And I thought, you know, if they had the opportunity and if they were able to leverage the power of NFTs, they would be able to sell these NFTs, help them with cash flow, and then all those people who bought these NFTs, they would just be rewarded with coffee when they open up again.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of like offering that ability and that flexibility to businesses to just do better business.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's definitely a new space where we're entering, and I'm glad you guys are also bringing in the restaurants along. But yeah, I guess to shift the conversation, what I really wanted to also understand was your interest in mindfulness. And when we met for coffee a few days ago, you mentioned that your wife and yourself, you did a retreat. So you know I guess you would identify yourself as an entrepreneur, but why is mindfulness important for you?
Yeah, I think in the business space, I definitely, you know, um, identify myself as an entrepreneur. But I think I would say I was like, I'm either a conscious entrepreneur or a mindful entrepreneur. I don't know what it's called, you know. But I think like every morning when I wake up, I'm not like, oh yes, I got to be an entrepreneur today. Actually, no, I'm like, you know what? I hope I have a day that starts with love, peace, and, you know, like courage. And courage is maybe sometimes associated to being an entrepreneur. um, but it's definitely something that I probably had in me my whole life. but I wasn't in touch with it as much, like
Mm-hmm.
through culture and religion in my home growing up, through martial arts, which took a very big part of my life. And then now, like after kind of meeting my wife, who's been, very spiritual from day one, introducing me to things, and slowly, like I've kind of like found my own path through to it and seen the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to apply it to everything I do. Like, so yeah, we did go to it wasn't it was a resort, but it was like a resort retreat kind of hybrid
Yeah.
concept, where my son was there too, but like there was no buffets. It was vegan food, very they tried very hard to be like eco-friendly in terms of waste and all kinds of ways. And I mean, that was something fun, but we do the work as well, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Of course.
Like and that was kind of like, we appreciate that lifestyle, and I think it brings a lot of happiness to us, and a lot of perspective, and a lot of gratefulness, which I think is important.
For sure. For sure. And I guess, thanks for sharing that. But how has mindfulness helped you, like, especially in the day to day, and the work you're doing? I feel like for most of us, there's this level of frustration that comes, especially when we don't see results, or we don't get the outcome we're expecting, and or the results we desired for ourselves. It's easy to get frustrated, and especially in the industry you're working in, or even as an entrepreneur, there's quite often um, a lot of things that are outside of your control. So how do you use mindfulness and to ground yourself and keep that level head?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's there's no like answer that says here's the solution, now go. And it's not like doing a bench press,
Hmm.
like you go and do bench, you are going to get like, pectoral muscles. Like it's just how it works. The mind is a muscle, and the more you train it, the more it will become kind of accustomed to being in certain situations. But our thoughts are not a muscle.
Hmm.
Our thoughts are consciousness. Our thoughts are, our ego. Our thoughts are these floating things, are not even real. So it's hard to um, control them. And what I feel that mindfulness is a practice that helps you kind of do the work to be able to control these thoughts that come in that could hinder you in your day, or in your work, or in your mission.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's how I like to use it.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think what people don't necessarily appreciate, like in your example, even bench pressing, you're not going to get the results right away. You have to be consistent and stick with it. For some reason, I think people are able to remain consistent and positive with the physical stuff, but not so much the stuff that you don't really see, which is obviously your brain and your mind. Um, I don't know if
Yeah,
you.
that's super true. And I think when you're developing habits, it's very important that you're able to kind of see what kind of progress you're making.
Hmm.
So you need that positive reinforcement to come from the work that you're doing. And when you're doing something that's mindful, it's hard to see like a progress coming for you to stick to it. But there's a practice that, we often like we will see or will stumble upon. What I like to do is really kind of um, kind of scan the state you're in at one moment, do the practice, and then scan the state you are in another moment, like, or
Hmm.
afterwards.
Hmm.
And you're often able to see, okay, there is a difference here.
Yeah.
Stillness alone is so powerful. The ability to just be still and silent is so powerful, and it can change complete direction, mood, emotions, thoughts. And so you just recognize, okay, I'm really flustered right now. I'm really feeling anxious. Tell yourself and be okay with it, because everybody is. Just tell yourself that's how you feel right now. Get into that whatever mindful exercise you're about to get into, whether it's breathing or meditation, do it, and then tell yourself again how you feel.
Mm.
And once you start to kind of like see that difference, at least for me, then I start to say, okay, this is working, and I'm going to keep
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I guess this kind of brings us to what we wanted to discuss, and you touched on earlier, like from high school and stuff. And yeah, actually, when I came to that high school, I didn't really know anyone because I didn't go to the one that all my elementary school friends went to. So you were one of the first people that I actually met. I remember very vividly, like I think Sec One, I think there was a bunch of new kids, and you were
Yeah.
one of the first ones I met. But I guess that high school journey was very interesting, and we touched on it offline. But the whole aspect of bullying and that how that impacts you, and then as you get into your adult life, I feel and this may not apply to everyone, but we quite often are still overcompensating for those experiences in different ways. I know I have, but I just want to get your thoughts, and what was your experience like being on that end as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in retrospect, we didn't go to like a great elite high school.
No.
Like I see like kids now, like around me with parents and stuff, and I see their kids in which schools they are, and there's no doubt in my mind that there's still bullying going on.
Yes.
But what a difference, and like our school like was a public school in a average neighborhood, and it was just big, so everyone went there. But I agree. I definitely got caught up in a lot of that, and I think a lot of my life was almost evolving around the trauma,
Yep.
from bullying. And like I remember like one of my heroes is George St. Pierre, and I and like it's funny, he lives not far from our neighborhood, so I see him all the time, and I never say anything to him, but like I see him, and he's like a constant reminder of like what you can achieve as being bullied and stuff. But he's also a reminder of that compensation that you told me about, that you just
Mhm.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Like he was super bullied, and then all of a sudden he turns into like the best fighter in the universe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's a correlation there for sure. And like there is. And high school was, I find high school was rough because people I thought were my best friends were actually bullying me, and people who were my teachers that I was hoping for them to protect me were also bullying us.
Hmm.
So and you start to lose trust, and once you lose trust in the world and people, you start to lose guidance, and you start to lose an opportunity of being your best self also.
Hmm.
um and so yeah, I think it's a pretty rough thing to go through as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'd like to give the teachers some credit. Maybe they didn't know how to handle it. They obviously weren't given the tools. I think back then, maybe as part of their training, they weren't educated on how to handle bullying. It's just one of those things. What do you do, right? Like, I feel like some of the kids were just mean. And as a teacher, if you,
Look, I personally don't like that excuse where
yeah,
like the teacher should have, and that's I feel like the teacher is put in a position and they need to know how. And like
yeah,
I understand that, like I understand why, like I understand this, people need to be educated stuff,
yeah,
in all kinds of stuff, in gender discrimination, racial discrimination. Like it's like, oh, but the guy is from, that man is from the old times. Well, no, too bad. Like,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's cool though that we're able to forgive.
Hmm.
That I buy. Like
Yeah.
we're okay. You and I, we forgave and we moved on,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to dismiss that they, oh, they didn't get the education they needed.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I guess part of it, what I was getting at too, was that
the teachers themselves got bullied, right? I remember there was some really nasty incidents
Oh my God, you're so
from
right.
our high school. So I think maybe the teachers were afraid to even speak up because they're like, well, if I'm going to step in here, I'm a target now. So
You're so right.
that's
Wow.
just
I remember our homeroom teacher.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow. I wish I can reach out to him and just like kind of give him a hug on behalf of like our class.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like wow, he couldn't even teach us.
yeah,
He he couldn't even teach us. And now I see your perspective because like some other teachers said, "Oh, okay. Well, if I side with the bullies, if I'm like cool with them, I will gain their respect and in consequence, I will also gain the fear of those who are fearing the bullies and have some kind of order in the
yeah.
class."
Perhaps,
You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's many different ways to look at it. But I guess for yourself,
We should get one of those teachers on here.
yeah, I don't know if they're still around, but definitely, it would
Mr.
be,
Pagliatti. Was that
yeah.
it?
I can't remember. I mean,
I don't know. It just popped in my head. I see his face. Poor guy.
yeah, no, there's some very bad incidents I remember where one teacher's, I think even her classroom door was spray painted with racial slurs. But yeah, no, I think like kind of coming back to you and I, like how were you able to like, I know you mentioned that obviously it impacted you, you lost trust. I think part of it, what happens also is we start creating this belief about ourselves where, it's like,
Hmm.
maybe I am this way. Maybe there is some truth to it. Maybe, and I think part of the bullying also occurs around your kind of physical looks, and that's not something
Hmm.
you can change. So yeah, how were you able to navigate that as you got into adulthood and beyond that?
Well, I mean, right away, right after high school, I thought like being brown, being raised Muslim, was wrong. I thought like, okay, that's not how you're going to succeed in life. So right away, I was like, okay, let's try to become as white as possible.
Hmm.
So letting go like that kind of identity was definitely like, the first thing I think that happened automatically without me even realizing.
Hmm.
And disassociating myself to the culture, to the traditions, to the food, to everything,
Hmm.
because I thought it was because yeah, a lot of the bullying, like you said, was based on like who you are as a person without any like just because this is how you're born into the world.
Yeah.
Um and uh and then after that I think like for me, it was always like, why couldn't I stand up for myself? Like, why
Hmm.
couldn't I? And I remember certain instances where I did, but it didn't really help,
Hmm.
either. And so, like, why couldn't I do that? And then why? And then you start to have like this, maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe I don't have the courage. Maybe, like, and you kind of go through that. I don't know if you kind of went through or what
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I think what again, I didn't really put a lot of thought in. Well, I did, I have, but it's interesting to always get another perspective. And I guess yeah, being brown was definitely something I also struggled with because it's different than I feel like other scenarios. In our case, and I don't know about you, but my parents were first generation, or like they were immigrants, so I was first generation in a way, and
Yeah,
they didn't
same
they
here.
didn't they didn't understand the level of bullying I went through as a kid because they hadn't experienced it. So it was almost like, well, I don't know how to explain it to you guys. So I
Hmm.
almost felt alone, and there was like really no community for me to go to and be like, hey, are you guys also experiencing this? And it's not something I knew how to do as a kid as
Hmm.
well. So you're right. Like there's parts of me that I almost kind of gave up my identity, or I told myself that the less brown I act, the less I would get bullied. And to your point, if I did ever try standing up for myself, I would get ganged up on, or it'd be even worse. So
Yeah, exactly.
it was almost easier to accept it or try to change parts of myself and either look different, talk different, fit in different ways. I think for me, one of the things I adopted was, hey, if I make everyone laugh,
Mhm.
maybe they'll accept me. So yeah, I tried to become the class clown. There's many ways I tried to adapt over the years, and I think until I didn't fully accept myself for who I am, I wasn't really able to be comfortable, and that
Mm.
identity crisis was there. But yeah.
It's and we don't have the maturity at that point to be like looking at each other in the hallway and being like, yo, I feel you. And that's
Hmm.
because at that time, you know, like regular like media, pop culture wasn't kind of talking about this kind of stuff. Like
Hmm.
today, you know, you'll see like TV shows about that portray bullying, drug use, parental abuse, like racial discrimination, and like all that stuff. And it starts to come out, and people start to develop an empathy towards that. But
Hmm.
back when we were growing up, it was like gangster rap and like, like just being funny was the key. Like I remember, like and so we didn't have that knowledge to be like, hey, Furkan, I see you, and I see you as you are, and I feel you, like we didn't have that
No.
ability to do that. And we were
No.
side by side most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think it was also about survival, right? And it's like I need to survive, and it's probably on a subconscious level, but it's like I can't help anyone. I'm trying to help myself here. Trying to,
Yeah.
breathe here, get the oxygen mask for myself first before I can even think about anyone else.
Oh man, yeah. It was, yeah. I think everybody, you know what? I'm thinking back now, and I'm reflecting, and I feel like everybody was bullied in some way.
Yes.
Like even the bullies themselves, they were like, I can only imagine their situations at home. And everybody was compensating in some way. And for some people, like you say, for you, a way to compensate or to kind of break through from that was to be funny. Well, for others, a way to break through something even worse, or not worse, but like I don't know, like something else,
Hmm.
was to be a bully.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes. And like even the bullying, what kind of response were they getting? Well, they were getting laughter. They were, and everyone's seeking love. Like
Yeah.
everybody is only seeking love, and we all try to get it in different and weird ways.
Yeah, yeah, it's the Jay Shetty uses this quote from Russell Barkley quite often. He says the people that need the most love ask for it in the most unloving ways. And that can't be any true, right? So and yeah, there's so much truth behind that. But so I guess, Naeem, like for yourself, when were you able to like break through it? I know you mentioned like, going into college and stuff. Uh, it was like, okay, well, very similar to myself. How do I remove myself from this identity that's obviously created a lot of anxiety and problems for me? But at what point were you like, you know what, this is who I am, and it's accepting it?
Dude, I'm still going through it, man. I think, like, I mean, I'm not like going through the wounds of the bullying from high school, like, but I'm definitely still going through figuring out who I am. And I
Mm,
don't think that's a journey like that ever stops, because we're constantly evolving and changing. And I think we just got to feel at home. And home is like, heart, love, like family. Like you just, once you get that feeling of I'm home, then and you kind of trust the process, and where you're going to go, and you try to be as authentic as possible in that process, and be in the moment as much as possible, then I think you're just kind of going on the right path. But I mean, that's but to kind of like pinpoint some certain moments. I think
Mhm.
in in university in CJAP, I started like accidentally maybe kind of hanging around just smart people.
Mm.
And they start to value intelligence, they start to value learning, and that's what like was valuable. Like you can be the funniest dude, but like no Jim Carrey joke is gonna like, kind of like give you any kind of credit. Like, it was
Yeah.
like you had to read, you had to learn, like, and so I kind of fell into that crew, and I ended up, studying philosophy as well. And I would, and I think it kind of helped me elevate and use my mind more.
Mhm.
And so I started like, kind of really focusing on that, and then I started realizing that I was good at kind of bringing things together,
Yeah.
developing ideas, concepts, and I started working on that as well. And I started to see like, okay, that's where people also like me in a way,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And we
Yeah.
look for that external validation a lot when we're young.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And I think in higher education, people are there because they want to be there. Yeah, the bullying aspect is less common in those scenarios. I don't recall
Hmm.
any of that in university, which is good because then you're kind of able to focus on education and the reason why you're there to begin with. I guess as we come to an end here, is there any message or anything you'd like to pass on for people that might be going through bullying, whether in their current life or if they've experienced it in the past? And how would you like to use your platform to kind of bring awareness around that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of giving advice to anyone who's getting bullied, well, like you need to kind of reach out to somebody. Like you need to speak and not be
Mhm.
afraid to speak. And I think that first step is going to lead you into the right direction. And it's not
Mhm.
going to solve overnight. You're not going to speak to someone and then boom, the bullying stops. But the more you get accustomed to reaching out to someone and speaking about it, the outlet, the venting of that whole experience
Mhm.
is going to have like this flow that you'll be able to use and leverage instead of doing things that you might regret later on.
Mhm.
A lot of people kind of move into a different direction where they need to feel like they need to escape the
Yeah.
reality of the world when they bully.
Mhm.
And that's when you start to kind of go into drugs or like different environments. But most importantly, as parents, if you have kids, I think the most important thing to do is to make them feel loved no matter what.
Mhm.
Because as soon as they feel that, once they need to reach out to somebody, they will come to you and not be afraid of you and be afraid of your judgment on them, instead of going to other friends, instead of going to other people, where you can't control and you don't know. And then those people might be in a similar situation where they all start to kind of solve their problems using like external things, like whether it's drugs or stuff like that that can lead
Yeah.
people in the wrong, or violence, or
Yeah.
so. I think it's twofold. If you're young, um, be courageous and speak to somebody
Mhm.
and let that habit form. And I think you slowly but surely, you're gonna find a situation that you're gonna like and enjoy. And if
Mhm.
you're an adult and if you have kids, just don't don't make your love something that your kid has to earn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
You
very
know.
important. Thanks for sharing that. And I think, yeah, as parents, we need to be mindful of that. And because I think our kids might be scared even talking about it, and they probably view us as adults and assume we never went through it. But it's important to remind them of the importance of speaking about it. And I think bullying also has evolved. Now it's like social media, it's uh, other forms of technology that didn't exist when we were kids, and it's almost like it can all follow you around forever. Whereas at least for us, when we went home, we were able to escape from it in a way.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely worse. It's definitely a lot worse. The anxiety that I see in young people today because of things like social media is like, and this is like a whole other podcast now.
Yeah.
you know. But I'll close on saying that my wife and I, we recently got involved in a company called Anatha, and it's one of the main key components of it is a festival, which is a music and wellness festival.
Yeah.
It's a non-profit called Anatha Fest. It's a non-profit company where we're hoping to kind of raise awareness and funds around being able to go into schools, teach kids how to manage anxiety with breath techniques through yoga, through talking, communicating, and kind of like bring more awareness to them and to their teachers as well. So like it kind of circles back to what you were saying in the beginning. It's like we want to develop and help develop these programs to kind of educate the school systems and the stakeholders there, so that people can kind of have a little bit more empathy.
Yeah.
And so you can check that out on anathafest.com. It's a music and wellness festival. It's been happening since 2019 here in Montreal.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll put it in the show notes and definitely check it out myself. And that's amazing stuff that you and your wife are doing. And thanks for sharing that. And thank you for coming on, Naeem. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate your patience. We had some technical issues along the way, but we made it. And I guess for listeners that want to get a hold of you or find you online, especially if they want to learn more about the work you're doing, what are some ways they can do that, whether it's social media or other forms?
Yeah,
Other
I mean,
platforms?
my website, naeemadam.com, is probably the best way. And I reply everybody, anybody, whether you're a kid or, so as long as you're not a robot. So you can reach out to me there, and all my ventures are kind of listed there as well. And I just want to say back to you, Furkan, like it's amazing to hear back from you. I knew you would come, you would do great things. To see like kind of like, we kind of lost touch for a little bit, and then to kind of see you pop out now, it's really cool. I'm really happy that you've come to this place. You've accomplished so much, and as a father too, you seem like to have like a really good, relationship with your kid, and like I think that's beautiful. So good job on you as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. It means a lot. So, and thanks again for doing this. This is amazing, and we'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll continue to do other collaborations here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was a real pleasure.
That's the end of the episode. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next week.